So welcome everybody to today's Flex webinar. I'm your host, Markus Merritt. For today, you'll notice something different. I am on site at the warehouse of Mountain View Staging in Springville, Utah, current Flex customer and my former employer. Today, we're doing a scanning demo, the process for scanning gear in and out of your warehouse through Flex. And I've wanted to do this presentation for a while, but I want to actually make sure there's real equipment that I'm doing it with to show, and not just a demo where I'm doing a lot of clicking on the screen and showing that. I want to actually be running a scanner and processing that. So I wanted to do this, and I recently reached out to my former employer at Mountain View Staging and checked with them, and they have some good COVID safety protocols. And so, actually this kind of setup here for sort of a studio for other broadcasts. And so I've come here to do this work with them. So again, thank you for Mountain View Staging for helping to host this and for letting me borrow some of this equipment for this. Okay. So for today, the first most important thing though is we want to talk about the actual process or the life cycle of the equipment. Okay, that's that most important thing that we want to do next. So Jackson, let's go ahead and get to the slides here. Okay. So for this, if we think about the equipment life cycle, the demo of kind of how things go through, that, the customer sends in and they ask us for an RFQ. They're like, hey, let's get a quote for this. So you go ahead and have some salesperson make them a quote. Then they approve that. We make a pull sheet, hand that off to the warehouse, and they start to prep the gear. That prepping creates a manifest. Manifest then goes out on the show, does the project, whatever that is. Things are different these days, but still is. When it's over, it comes back and you need to return the manifest. After you return, you need to de-prep the equipment, and then they are going to be able to put it back on the shelf. It'll be ready for the next show, and that circles around to get the life cycle. Okay, that's the full cycle. That's where it goes. So when we think about that circle, we have to think about this as kind of what comes first. What's the chicken or the egg? Okay. Normally, when I do this presentation for people, I've done this training, especially here when I worked at Mountain View Staging when we hired new people, but there's a lot of on-site training I've done. I'll normally get a chance to try to ask people and get some on-site if they can guess what's the first part of that process. I don't have that easy thing, so I will just tell you that for this, the most important step in that process is to have everything shelf ready. Okay. You want all your gear at zero position so you're ready to go out the door at the moment's notice. If you get that last minute confirmation that show is ready, you get that last minute request from some, one of your partners in the area. Hey, we need to rent some gear. We had some problems with ours. You want to be able to have that prepped out the door right away. So you want your gear shelf ready. So that means for this part of the process, for the warehouse staff in it, the most important process is the de-prep. Okay. The actual act of putting the gear away on the last thing so that it ends up at shelf ready. Now, yes, we don't want the gear to just sit on the shelf. We want it out on shows, but we want it ready to be out on shows. That's that key there. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start the demo. Okay. So we see on here, I've got my flex screen for that. And so as I said, the first thing we want to do is return the gear. So last night, I prepped all this gear as if it was out on a show yesterday. And today it came back to the warehouse and we're putting it away. Okay. Now, obviously, it's still in nice, unique shape. I didn't do anything to actually set it up, but we're going to do that presentation that way. Okay. So in here, I've got my return manifest where we had gone to to the main screen, and then warehouses, return manifest. And we see this here, my scanning process demo part 1. Okay. That it has been prepped. So we're going to go for that. And we see that gear that has been prepped. We see where we're at. Okay. So in this, we're going to start returning equipment. And I don't have a lot of things here that I'm using in this demo, but I have enough to show the core differences of the different types of things that you might do and how they will respond. Okay. The first thing I just want to hit is this amp rack here. This amp rack is a serialized package, meaning that it only has items inside of it that are permanent, and it is assumed they're coming and going every time. No, there's no loose parts. There's no drawer, no patch cables. Everything's there. So when I get this, I probably still want to pull off the lid, look at it, make sure I don't see any clear damage, make sure I don't see somebody excessively decided to pull out and, tear everything out with a screwdriver or a drill. I'm going to be able to assume that. So for this, I'm not going to do that. You guys know how to open your cases We're going to put our cursor here and see what's up. See if that responds for us. Okay, so I got to double check the programming of this scanner. It'll be fine. So we got that there. So we see in this one that when we scan that in, it immediately scanned and processed in all of those contents. Okay, it said the amps are still there because it is set as permanent. Okay, that's that first example. Okay, amp rack is commonly the only thing I will say that definitely works this way. There are occasional other items, but they are few and far between. Okay, but it is important to note serialized package means everything's permanent. As the note on that, if I then come back over to the home screen here and I go to scan that open, this was scanning right yesterday. Well, I will just have to make sure I get my cursor up here. That's my bad for not double checking my programming in my scanner. So we'll see here that if I open that container, that again, my case is still ready. It's all ready to go out next show. Okay, that's the positives of serialized package. The negative is we only should be doing this for things where everything is screwed in there. Everything is permanent, and there's no chance of that item didn't actually come back. Okay, for the next thing, we're going to go ahead and close this guy. Note on this that we can scan this to close it, but when we're in content builder mode, it will close the case, but leave us in the content builder screen so we could go to the next case if necessary. Okay. For that, really quick, we're going to do these ones next. These guys are serialized storage. Okay. For serialized storage, I'm going to go ahead and scan it open to see here. We see that it's prepackaged from that show, that it's on the show, and that's fine. It's got both the 6 serialized lights that are in this case, and then it's got the 6 non-serialized power cables. But none of this is listed as permanent because they're physical separate pieces. If I go in here and I open this up, I can take the light out, go set it up, and if someone doesn't put this back in the case when it comes back, I don't want to assume that it came back from the show. I need to have people double check that it actually is processed. Okay. So we're going to go back over to our return processing, and we're going to scan this. So the first thing we want to do is on this return screen, we're going to scan in the case. We see in this case where instead it only has scanned in the case. It has not processed any of the contents because we don't want to assume that anything came back. We're not making assumptions here. We want to double check and make sure things have actually happened. If we now go back over to our content builder tab where we had it open and we reload it, whoop, that went back to the amp rack. Well, we'll do this guy. Interesting. We'll go here and we're going to scan it back open so we know. You'll see that it's empty. So that's within that default setting of exploding the case is what we call it. And it's just saying it's digitally going to empty it out so that we're not making any assumptions. Because now the job believes this case is back in the warehouse, but the lights are still on the job. And so they can't be in the case and on the job if the case is in the warehouse. So it separates their connection. It's also important because in this example, I sent 2 cases of these out on the show. I have 12 lights for that. If I have 12 lights set up and I put both of these into storage, what's the chance that I actually put the same 6 lights back in the same case and the same other 6 lights in the same case? Almost zero. Basically not going to happen. And that's perfectly fine. I don't really care as far as once they get back in the warehouse, but I need to make sure I understand that updated connection for the next time. Okay. So that's why it empties itself out. Okay. So the normal process, I'm going to do this for the first one, is that we would then, from our return screen, there we go. We would then just go ahead and start returning the items. So I'm going to go ahead and return the items. Just scan these quickly. Okay, and then I would take and count my IEC cables and double check, did I get all of those? Yes, I did. And so I'm going to go in here and go ahead and process those. So yes, I've got 6 of those. And so that one is fully returned. Okay, that's kind of nice. So then I need to, for Deprep, because as we said, the most important part of this is Deprep, I need to make sure that these are Deprep before I put them away on the shelf. And right now, the case is still not put away. So for this, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to now scan them again to put them into the case. And I will say that some people may already be commenting that there's a different way to do this. And I know we're going to show that. I want to just highlight that difference in there because this is the way people normally think of it. And I sort of explained that it is somewhat the proper way, but there is a way around this. And we want to make sure to just see the difference and understand what occurs differently on that. Again, for this, I'm going to go ahead and just say here, yes, I got 6 of these. And now my case is ready to be put away. Okay. So I can close that up. One note on this, on items like this, different companies do different things, but very commonly people will do something to create a seal, some kind of tape, gaff tape, paper tape, painter's tape, something like that. I've even seen people choose to go more extreme and use zip ties and put a zip tie through here to say, hey, this has been sealed and packaged. And so until if someone breaks that seal, I need to now go, I don't assume anything and go that. Whatever is up to you, but I do think it is a good practice to put a seal to say this has been repackaged and kitted and now is back on the shelf. The nice thing with tape is you can then put an initials of who did it and the date, and that can be a good reference. If somehow you find that something's wrong, you know who to go talk to. If it was a newer staff, you can do some updated training. But that's kind of important in that process. I'm not going to go ahead and do that, but I just want to make that comment. Okay. So the other thing I want to show for the second case on this is that there is a way to skip scanning those items twice. Okay. So instead, we're going to go, because my scanner is not properly got my caret in there. So I'm going to still return the case. That's going to explode everything. But then what I'm going to do is rather than returning any of the items, I'm going to go back over to my home screen and I'm going to scan it open into Content Builder. Now I'm going to start kitting it. So this is a way where we can say right now the system believes the lights are in the on the show still, but the case is in the warehouse. So if I go as these serialized items and start to go, well, I'm going to put this in the case, then the system goes, well, they can't be on the show and in a case that is in the warehouse, so that must mean you're returning them. Okay, so we can do that, and then we can similarly say we're going to put these, and this is an important update, different from Flex 4. I can now put these IEC cables in here. Okay, when we then go back to my return screen and we reload it, we'll see that all of my lights in that second bin got returned, okay? Because the system knows they can't be in both places. Now, it is important to note that if you're looking at their scan history, they are going to be set as a recovery scan, okay? Because it knows you didn't do a return scan, you scanned them somewhere else, and it says, well, that means they're not on the show anymore, so I'm going to return it, and that is called a recovery scan. There is nothing wrong with the recovery scan. It is an intended operation to just make it clear that you didn't do it on the regular return screen. You did it on a separate screen, whether it's a checking it back out for another show or a content builder. Okay, it's perfectly fine. Good operation. This is how I actually taught the guys here at MBS how to do this process. Okay, it saves you time because you're not scanning them twice. So here's an important thing. We do notice, though, on the IEC cable, because this is non-serialized, that it didn't get returned because it doesn't know were they the ones inside that case or did I just grab some new ones off the shelf. The system doesn't know, okay? And that's fine. I can still go, well, I double-checked and found there's 6. So when I come back to here, I can now go ahead and return these. And this is the key update. In Flex 5, it doesn't freak out about that. You see here that it still has those IECs. In Flex 4, it still saw that link between them and it would pull them out. And we understood that was unnecessary because even if I went and got them from the shelf, what does that matter? That doesn't hurt the fact that that case has been packaged. So that's the biggest positive thing in this update is that won't cause any problem. You still need to go through and count your cables and then do your returns, but doing it in this process doesn't hurt that order, okay? So that's just the one thing I want to comment on that. We're going to close this guy down. So then in here, what we have left is my free pick case. We see this case called Case Wheeled A. It's got some size on it, A31 there. And then we have some cable that we're pretending are inside of this, so I don't have to bother opening and closing it. But we sent some cable. Obviously, not this much cable didn't really need to go in this size of case, but we're just trying to demonstrate on this kind of idea. In this case, for the return, these ones are very simple because as a free pick container, a serialized free package, as it would be labeled, it says when I'm stored in the warehouse in between, my shelf ready is empty, okay? So we're going to go to my return, and we're going to scan in the case, and it's done. It does the same thing where it explodes it, if anything was in it, but I don't need to repackage it. I'm just going to put it away, okay? But then I still need to pull out that cable and put it away. So I'm going to take this and process it. In this case, for my example, this one is serialized. It's a more expensive cable, so I'm going to serialize that and scan that. And then I've got a few SDI cables here. I've got two 10-foots and two 25-foots that I'm going to return. So I check that and go, okay, I'm going to go ahead and return those. And so I can either scan the barcode or I can just do the virtual scan to process them. So we'll just say here that I've got two. And again, here that I've got two. And we are fully returned. Everything's checked off. We're at 100%. And we can go ahead and finalize this. Jackson, can you actually, just can you hit the finalize for me? It's slightly off my preview monitor. The lock button, and just say yes for me. Thank you. Okay, so that's our return. Okay, and again, that's that most important process so that now these have been repackaged. We put them away. That can be the same for whether it's as simple as this with 6 matching lights and 6 cables, or a really complicated camera case with 30 different parts and pieces, or an entire camera truck. It's the same process. We're still just deciding what's our baseline that we get back to before we put it on the shelf and put some kind of a seal tag. Other items like this, the serialized free pick package, they just go back empty in the storage, waiting for the next show that they go out. Our cables are just going to go into storage, and our amp rack, because it was a serialized serialized package, it's everything doesn't get changed, nothing gets pulled in or out on a show, and so nothing really changes with it. Okay, so that's kind of those main key differences in there. Just wanted to highlight. Okay, so with that, then we're going to go ahead and close those guys. And now for today, we go, okay, well, we returned the show that showed up this morning. Now we need to prep the next show. Oh, look, we've got this scanning process demo part 2. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pop this open. In this case, I'm doing it from this screen of the edit screen on here. And then, and Jackson, I'm going to need the same hand. Just hit the barcode. And then, hit the go to prep screen. Okay, just to show the other way to get there on that. Okay, so for this, again, it's a weird set of gear. It's not a problem. We're just trying to demo the few things about this. Okay, so in this, we've got the one piece of audio gear, a couple pieces of video cable, and these lights. Okay, on this is an important thing to remember. On a serialized free package, our free pick container, it's not on the list. It's not telling us we have to have this. We just decided, well, I've got some loose cable. I need a way to put them on the show. Okay, so that's that key thing. For this, we're going to say I look over the list as the guy in the prep, and I'm like, I want to go prep the cable first. Okay, so I'm going to go grab my SDI cable, and I'm going to go get myself a case for that. Okay, so that important thing for the serialized free package, that free pick container, our first thing we're going to do, we're going to go get that. Let me put my cursor. Thank you. And we're going to go ahead and crack this guy open. So this in it is going to go into free pick mode. We see there, I have my prompt set to automatically go into free pick mode. You might get a prompt up to say, would you like to go into free pick mode? This is the one prompt that I pretty much always say it's a really good prompt to bypass. If I made it a free pick container, it's for a reason, and I want to be able to go into that. And that's kind of how I'm going to do that. So now it just understands anything I'm scanning is going into that case. Okay. So then I can scan my cables. In this time, I'm going to show that, and this is an example that Aaron taught me, that what he did at one of the previous companies is for cables like this, so people could remember the number, is they just said, oh, well, this was a 25-foot SDI cable. So they named the barcode SDI 25. That is unique, so it doesn't matter. It's going to say, well, how many do I have? I have 2. And then I've got my 2 10-foots. Those are in the same way. They're SDI 10. Enter 2 of those, and I'm good. Okay. Now, I'm going to, for whatever reason, say I moved on. I forgot I didn't pay attention to that cable, and I'm going to not scan it. Okay. I'm doing that for a specific reason, and so I can now close my container. I can do that by clicking the X on the closed container, or I can do it by scanning the container again, and we'll see now that it's closed and ready to go that way. With this, the thing I want to highlight by my cursor is that I want to reload. So we see now our manifest tab. So again, we see that thing of the unlinked case that was not on the list, and then inside of it is these 2 cables and these 2 cables. Okay, I'm on my pull sheet. From that, I'm going to go, oh, well, I skipped the amp rack. I guess I should go grab the amp rack. So we're going to get my cursor back up here, and we're going to go hit the amp rack. Again, as the serialized package, everything's in there permanent. So everything was in there before, everything's in there again. On my pull sheet, because of that, it's only requesting the amp rack. It is not specifically requesting the amps because they are considered unavailable. Okay, so they're not on my pull sheet. But again, if I click over to my manifest, we'll see that it added the amp rack and the 3 amps that are inside of it. But again, these ones are unlinked because they were not listed on my pull sheet. But I do get the proper tracking of them going out on the show, coming back. Okay, that's an important thing. So then I go in here and go, oh, well, I'm going to start packing some of these lights. So I go and I check the seal and I see that that's good. And I can go ahead and pack one of my set of lights. Okay, so we're going to hit that. And we'll see that I checked off 6 of my 12 lights. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and pull the other one and hit that. And I get to my full lights. And I'm almost done. And I'm like, oh, how did I miss that? I missed that other SDI cable. But I want that to go back into my case. And this is the key thing that I want to show, is that I can do that. Even though that case is at the top of my list, I can come back here and open my case. And it's going to say, oh, you're scanning into that case. And then I can scan this serialized cable into there. And I'm going to go ahead and close the case. And that's going to put us at 100%. But that key thing there is I want to look at my manifest and see that that patch snake ended up here at the top of the list because it goes inside that case. So we didn't move the case to the bottom of the list, and we didn't have this here and somehow the case listed twice. It just properly knows to put that cable up there because I put it inside that case. So that's that important thing. You can open and close your free pick containers if you realize, oh, I needed to add something else and I have still some room in that. We can do that. Okay. It is, though, also important to note that you do need to remember to close your free pick containers. The system doesn't check like the dimensions on the items and go, there's no way that that amp rack's going to fit inside there comfortably. So I'm going to stop you. If I didn't remember to close it and then I went and scanned my amp rack, it just thinks it's inside there. Okay. So you do need to remember to close them, but it provides that lot of value so that if I had a big show and I put this on show site and someone's like, I need to find that specific item, I really need that patch snake, I can look at the manifest, the paperwork for that, and I can quickly find where it is. I commonly would run a shipping version of the manifest and a consolidated version and email those PDFs to the on-site lead so he could pull up that PDF, do a search, find that item and go, oh, that's in case A31. We can just run around and look through A31. Obviously, my little show, that's not really an issue, but that's the key there. So those are the key things that I want to show in that process. Again, that really important thing to recap is, remember, we want to always think of as the first step in the process is the Deprep, putting things away and getting shelf ready. Part of that you'll notice is my putting away took more time, but usually that's when I have more time. When I needed to prep, when I was ready to get these guys out, I hit the outside barcode, and I can load them on the truck. They're ready to go. Okay, that's that key thing. The second is just to remember, get your things packaged and keep them labeled. Track that. And then pay attention to the way you're doing your free pick container so you have that understanding of where things are. And the other is, I really comment on this. When I'm doing these, a lot of people go, well, if this is this small of a show, people are going to be able to find. There's one free pick container. And I say, yes, but if you're not in the mode of remembering to do that, when you have that big show, you're going to forget, and then they're not going to get that information, and the on-site leads really want that. So you should be in the practice to always pack your free pick containers so that when it does matter, you don't forget to do it. Okay? Thanks again for everybody for showing up. We really appreciate you. We know that times are hard and things are difficult for everybody. We're doing what we can to kind of help make sure you have good information. You can get your systems cleaned up for when we get past this, and we're ready to get back to work. Okay? Thanks again, everybody, and everyone have a good day and stay safe.